Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff, and welcome to another episode of 5 Random Knives and what I like about them. Today's theme is 5 work knives. Now before we get into this video is not a review. These 5 knives we're going to be going over. This is just going to be a quick and dirty rundown of some things I like about them and why I decided to include them in this video. This is a showcase, not a review video. All 5 of these knives do have full-length, in-depth reviews on my channel that you can check out if you would like. Hi guys, look at my shadow. It's in the evening and the window behind me is facing west, so hi. Yeah, not reviews, but all these knives do have full reviews that you can look up if you're interested. Now, what do I mean when I say work knife? Aren't all knives work knives, right? Knives do work. Whether it's a kitchen knife or an EDC knife, cutting stuff is doing work. Well, yes, but when I use the term work knife, I'm using it to refer to a knife that is an EDC that might be expected to do a little bit extra. An EDC plus, I sometimes call it. These are knives that you're not afraid to use in a dirty environment. You're not afraid to scratch them up, to scuff them up. They're knives that are durable enough to be put through a lot, but they're not necessarily, knives that are aimed specifically at hard use or abusive situations, I would say. A knife that I was going to include on this list, but decided not to actually, was the Hinderer Jurassic. And the reason I decided not to include this knife on the list is because it's a very expensive knife, and maybe an expensive knife is something that, some people might be a little bit nervous about using real hard. Not me. I love using this knife. As you guys can see, this knife gets quite a bit of use. But this is really emblematic of what I mean when I say a work knife. Because this is a knife that, you can carry this as your EDC. This will handle a bunch of smaller tasks. Food prep, cutting a string here and there, opening packages. But this is also a knife that can be pushed to some, more demanding tasks, right? I often think about my, growing up and my background. As you guys, a lot of you know, I grew up on a cattle ranch. After I graduated high school, I spent several years working as a cowboy for another ranch. And when I think of work knife, I think about the kind of knife that I would love to have had either around my family ranch or I was out in the Rockies cowboying. The kind of knife that, is a good EDC knife. It's a knife that will do all my small tasks, but if I need to do something bigger, if I'm cutting irrigation tarp, if I'm cutting pallet straps, if I'm cutting hay bales open, if I'm, maybe carving a little bit of wood, breaking down thick cardboard, cutting thick rope, something like that, this is the kind of knife that can handle that type of job. The kind of knife that you pull out of your pocket, you open it up, you make your cut, and maybe you don't put it back in your pocket. Maybe you throw it on the ground, you put it aside for a second, you keep working, you grab it back up, make another cut. The kind of knife that just gets used, right? That's what I kind of mean when I say work knife. So let's go ahead and jump into this video without any further ado, because that was already too much ado for some people I know. All right. We're starting off with the Bestech Slasher. This is a really, really cool knife. I reviewed this several years ago, and this is a really great example of a budget work knife, right? Not quite a beater knife, but, I guess kind of close to it. We have a D2 sheep's foot blade. We've got micarta handles. We have a crossbar lock, a wire clip. Everything about this knife to me screams work knife. It's not very heavy, but it is a fairly robust knife that can handle a lot. I love the ergos here. This knife has such a big, well-shaped handle. If you're wearing gloves or barehanded, this knife is going to feel very, very secure in your grip. The blade here is excellent. Great sharpening choil. That's a big deal for a work knife. You're going to be sharpening it a lot. Crossbar lock is a pretty strong locking mechanism, which again helps add to the durability and robustness of your work knife. Nice, fairly big, easy to access thumb studs. Again, if you're using this while you're wearing gloves or maybe your hands are cold or something, it's going to be easy to get to those studs. The wire clip is really, really nice. It's reversible. This is a full ambi knife. This is the only completely, no, actually, never mind, it's not. I was going to say this is the only full ambi option on today's list, but it's not actually all the knives that we're going to be looking at today are full ambi except for one, and even then it's very lefty friendly. But anyways, great clip. I do like these wire clips, especially on work knives. They're pretty low profile, and they just work really, really nicely. This is a great, great knife. I haven't carried it in a while since the review, but man, this thing is so freaking cool. And again, you pick this knife up and it just feels like it wants to be put to work. Just grr. This sheep's foot blade shape is so useful because it's a modified sheep's foot. You've got a little bit of belly here. We got kind of a continuous sweep. Low tip, so your utility cuts are going to be no problem, but you've also got enough belly to do some really long slices to kind of maximize your edge length. You can do some kind of rolling cuts on a surface a little bit if you're crunching down zip ties or something. Yeah, this is an absolutely excellent budget work knife. And I'm a big, big fan of this one. Good action, too. What a fun knife. What a fun knife. Next up, let's take a look at a fixed blade. And this is an expensive knife, but you know what? We're going to give an exception to fixed blades. But this is the TKL Knives Accomplice. I absolutely love this knife. Now, they don't make these anymore, unfortunately, but this is such an excellent work knife. This is the kind of knife that, gosh, again, we're fairly robust, but it's not a huge knife. This is very easy to carry. Basically all belly, but we still have a low tip with a straight clip point blade. Getting to that tip is not, the worst thing ever. Got a lot of belly for some rocking cuts. Very comfortable in hand. Very good grip on this G10. It's not going anywhere. The sheath itself, excellent Kydex sheath. Amazing retention. You are not going to lose this. The ABL steel here is pretty tough, right? This will stand up to a lot of abuse without deforming the edge. You can put a low angle edge on here very, very easily. Thick geometry, saber height flat grind, but not insanely thick. You see there, we get down to a pretty reasonable tip. Yeah, this is an absolutely excellent working fixed blade. I would have loved to have something like this when I was working in the irrigation ditches. Tie a lanyard here, maybe attached to my wrist so I don't lose it. But yeah, cutting tarp, rope, getting sandbags. You cut rope for the sandbags, you cut plastic for sandbags. We'd whittle stakes to hammer into the ground to hold our beams in place for the irrigation tarps. This is an excellent knife for that. Really, really hardworking. Next up, a knife that I have used, that I did use back when I was cowboying, the Spyderco Resilience. This is an awesome knife, and one of the things that I love most about this knife is the size. This is a very big knife, which not only gives you a little more reach, which can be helpful in a lot of tasks, but it means that this knife is so easy to use when you're wearing gloves. You pull this out of your pocket, there's enough of it to hold on to that you're not feeling like you're going to drop it. That hole is really, really nice. It's very prominent, stands out away from the scales. Get your thumb in there, roll it open. The liner lock is very, very easy to use. Excellent cutout. Again, with gloves, this is one of the easiest liner locks to use with gloves. Some liner locks are a little bit finicky. This one is great. This knife is this is the one that I was talking about that isn't technically completely ambidextrous, but it is very lefty friendly. 4-way positionable pocket clip. I left my pocket clip in the tip down carry, and I've carried this knife tip down the entire time I've had it. Amazing ergos. I think ergos are the most important part of a work knife. The better grip you have on a knife, the more control you have over that blade, and the harder you can push on that blade. You could have the greatest geometry in the world, but if your handle sucks, your blade is not going to be able to be used to its full potential. So I think a handle is very, very important. Besides that, this knife maximizes its entire blade length. We bring the edge all the way back to the handle, no finger choils or anything. This is 8CR steel, nothing fancy, but very easy to maintain. Full flat grind, which is my favorite geometry for a work knife. You get nice and thin and slicey, but you still have a good amount of robusticity. This is probably the sliciest knife on today's list, but It's a slicing knife that also has just kind of a beefy attitude. And I love knives like that. And that's kind of what Spyderco specializes in. Yeah, this knife slices like a dream, but it's also a robust knife. There's just so much to love about these. I'm a huge fan of the Resilience and the Tenacious. And the Resilience for me was my go-to when I was cowboying between the two. I freaking love this knife. If you guys followed me on Instagram back in the day, geez, what was this, like probably 4 or 5 years ago. If you followed me on Instagram, you saw this being posted a lot while I was out in the mountains. Just an excellent, excellent knife. All right, let's go ahead and do another fixed blade, and this one might be my favorite knife on the list. In fact, this is my favorite knife on the list today. The White River Ursus Cub. This is, in my mind, the absolute perfect work knife. This is the quintessential work knife. This is the very best EDC Plus fixed blade out there right now. It's a great size. Carrying this knife is so easy. But this packs so much into a very compact package. 3.5 inches of blade, amazing spear point blade shape, saber height flat grind, Magna Cut steel on this one. Fairly thick geometry or fairly thick blade stock, but it does come down to a nice thin edge. This thing slices and pierces, and it feels so good in the hand. Yeah, this is the kind of knife, again, you just want to put it to work. And I wish I had this back when I was cowboying and ranching. This would have been my best friend. Excellent sharpening choil. This Magna Cut is held up beautifully. I have been using the hell out of this knife, as you can see, EDCing it and using it on camping trips and stuff. But man, I would have loved to spend a day cutting open hay bales and pallets and feed sacks with this knife, working out in the garden or something. Man, this is just a great knife. Again, those ergos are what really sells it, and it's a fixed blade. And the great thing about fixed blades, they do have some disadvantages when it comes to work knives. I've got other videos talking about that, but one of the great things about fixed blades is, number one, no lock to worry about, no closing. But number two, they are just a little bit more durable. I could drop this in the dirt if I'm down on the ground and I'm working with something. And I have to pull my knife out. I can put this down in the dirt, pick it back up, put it back down in the dirt. I don't have to worry about gumming up a pivot or anything. I love the stonewash blade on this knife. Really hides wear very well. I mean, this knife, you can see we've got it's dirty, but the wear, once I clean this knife up, you won't be able to see the wear that much. Just an absolutely excellent package. And made in the USA. All right, our last knife is a folding knife. And you guys are probably like, oh my gosh, Gideon, there's a brand that you are not showing here. Don't worry, Cold Steel is coming to represent. The Recon One, and again, this is a knife that I have carried back when I was cowboying. And the thing I love about the Recon One is that this is a ton of knife. And I think actually I would have liked to have the spear point version, but this one did just fine. This is a ton of knife, but they're pretty affordable, and honestly, they're easy to carry too. Man, I freaking love my Recon One. Had a lot of fun using this out and about. This one obviously is the Bowie blade. We got the Triad lock, that massive strong lock. Really makes you unafraid to put this knife to work. This one is fully ambidextrous. I send you another clip in the bag. The ergos on this, again, just, man, locks you in. If you're wearing gloves, doesn't even care. You've got a lot of reach with this. S35VN blade. I love S35VN. I think it's a great working steel. Nice G10 scales, not too aggressive, but very grippy. This is, again, just a knife that works and works and works. And yeah, if you're back, you get home and you got an Amazon package waiting for you, yeah, you pull this out and you open it up and, grandma might give you a weird look, but hey, it does it. And then when you're out in the mountains, yeah, this is cutting open. I have cut wire with this knife, actually. We used to get certain brands of T-posts that would come in and they'd be bundled, and they'd have, you know, pretty thin little wire securing the bundles. And so sometimes we'd get out to the fence, or maybe we're unloading them at the barn, and we form stacks or whatever. We're getting those pallets out, and I take this thing and pop, 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 cut all those wires. Did it. No problem whatsoever. And this was a knife that I did use a lot in the irrigation ditches, just because it has a coated blade and there's no liners or anything. So this is a pretty rust resistant knife. So I didn't really worry too much about it getting wet. Just an excellent, excellent freaking knife. Just holding it here makes me want to get back out there cowboying. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right, well, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Big shout out to my channel members at the cowboy level. I appreciate everything you do for the channel. If you want to become a member and support me directly, there's a link down below. As for the rest of you hooligans, if you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.